The challenge. The arena shook with noise. The crowd was made of many alien species, all cheering for blood. High above them, screens showed the next fight. A name appeared. Not a champion, not a beast. Just one word. Human. Laughter rolled through. The seats. They're sending in a human? One alien laughed, sharp teeth flashing. On the other side of the sandpit, a tall, red-scaled female warrior cracked her knuckles. Her armor was made of black bone, her eyes yellow with fire. She belonged to the Bloodscale tribe, feared across 3 star systems. Her name was Zarza. She turned to the announcer's box and raised both arms. The crowd cheered louder. She was the queen of this arena. Undefeated, cruel, proud. "Bring out the toy," she mocked. "I will make it scream." A small door opened. Silence fell for a second. Then he stepped out, a human male, thin, pale, wearing nothing but a worn tunic and loose pants. No armor, no weapons, his hands were empty. His expression was calm. Too calm. "Where is your blade, soft skin?" Zarza shouted. He didn't answer. Zarza laughed and pointed at him with her clawed finger. "You came to die with no weapon? How weak. Your kind must be." The crowd roared with laughter. Bets were placed. No one gave the human more than 10 seconds. The gong rang. The match began. Zarza moved fast, too fast for most to follow. She leapt across the sand, her hammer raised, her teeth bared. She was going to crush him in one blow, but she hit only sand. The human was no longer there. Gasps rippled through the stands. Zarza spun around, confused. The human stood behind her, breathing slow. His eyes didn't blink. "How?" she growled. This time she charged again, swinging low and wide. He ducked. The hammer missed again. A third attack came. This time she added a twist, trying to trick him. The human didn't dodge. He stepped inside her swing. Zarza's eyes widened. His hand moved like a shadow. Calm, smooth, almost lazy. His palm hit her shoulder. It looked like nothing, but her armor cracked. She stumbled backward, shocked. Her shoulder felt numb. "What did you—" she began. He was already walking away. The crowd didn't know what to do. They didn't cheer. They didn't boo. They were confused, silent. A Bloodscale warrior had just been touched once, and she stepped back. "Come back here," Zarza shouted, fury rising. She rushed him again, this time with full rage. The human turned. His eyes narrowed. His hand met her wrist. A sharp twist. A cry of pain escaped her lips. She dropped the hammer. Now even her fans fell silent. She backed away, holding her arm. Her pride burned hotter than the injury. The human didn't chase. He didn't smile. He stood still, hands at his side, waiting. Zarza's breath was heavy. This wasn't a warrior. This wasn't a beast. This was something else. He had no power, no armor. But he made her feel like a child. She wanted to strike again. But her body refused. The gong rang again. The match was over. No blood, no death. But the human had won, and everyone knew it. The crowd remained quiet, unsure how to react. Some looked angry. Others looked afraid. Zarza stared at the human. Her claws clenched. She wanted to hate him, but deep inside, something else stirred. Curiosity. She had mocked him, and in seconds he shattered her pride. The silence spreads. The arena was still. Too still. Zarza stood in the center, her chest rising and falling fast, her wrist throbbing with pain, her pride torn open like broken armor. Around her, the crowd of thousands didn't cheer. They didn't chant her name. They whispered. What just happened? He didn't even hit hard, but she couldn't stop him. How can a human do that? No one had ever seen the Bloodscale warrior back down before. She had crushed beasts twice her size, snapped bones of metal-skinned cyborgs, and once fought 3 blade dancers in one match. But today, a human did what no weapon ever could. He made her hesitate. In the upper chambers of the arena, elite observers watched through glowing glass panels. A Tharnax general leaned forward, his insectoid eyes narrowing. "Pause the footage," he ordered. The screen froze on the moment the human touched Zarza's wrist. The movement was clean, fast, surgical. Run it again at 1/10 speed. The move, repeated in slow motion. The human's foot shifted slightly. His fingers struck a pressure point, just right. It was a strike used not to injure, but to disable. "That technique," whispered the general. "I've seen it before. In ancient war scrolls. But it was believed extinct, only used by Earth's shadow forces during the fall of Sol." Meanwhile, in the preparation chambers under the arena, Zarza paced alone. Her claws dragged lines into the stone walls. She was angry, but not at the human. Not anymore. She was angry at herself. "How did he do it?" she muttered. "How did he make me freeze?" She replayed the fight in her mind. His eyes, his calmness, his patience. He had studied her. In seconds, as if he already knew her every move. "It wasn't strength," she whispered. "It was something else." Suddenly, the door opened. Arena Master Dravok stepped in. His long coat dragged behind him, his green skin marked with medals from old wars. "Zarza," he said, his voice low, "you brought shame to your tribe." Zarza bared her teeth. "He didn't beat me. Not fully." Dravok stepped closer. "You were lucky. He didn't want to." "What are you saying?" "I've seen many killers in my life," he said, "but this one, he has control, and that makes him more dangerous than anyone you've ever fought." Zarza looked down. Her fists trembled. "I want a rematch." "You'll lose again," Dravok said coldly. "Unless you understand one thing, he's not here to win. He's here to send a message." Zarza's eyes snapped up. "What message?" Dravok turned away. "That humans are not as weak as we thought." On the other side of the arena complex, the human sat in a small, silent chamber. He drank water slowly, his hands calm. He looked at the bruises on his arm where Zarza's hammer had grazed him. Just a little more and it would have shattered bone. But it didn't, because he let it touch him. Because he wanted her to think she had a chance. "Why didn't you finish her?" asked a voice from the shadows. It was a translator drone, hovering, near the ceiling. It belonged to the arena's secret overseer, the syndicate of ancient watchers. The human looked up, his face unreadable. "Because I didn't need to," he said softly. "You humiliated her." I opened her eyes. "Others will challenge you next," the drone said. "They'll be more dangerous, more desperate." The human stood slowly, cracking his neck. "Let them come." That night, as the arena prepared for the next match, something changed in the air. The arena's betting halls were quiet. No one was sure who to bet on anymore. The human had no name, no history, no record, but everyone felt it. He wasn't a mistake. He was a warning. And Zarza, in her private room, watched the fight again and again. Every step, every move, every breath. Not to hate him, but to understand him. She wasn't going to destroy him now. She was going to learn from him. But others didn't think the same. Deep in the lower levels of the arena, a group of angry champions gathered. Reptilian, cybernetic, and shadowborn warriors sharpened blades, whispered strategies, and prepared. They wanted revenge. They didn't just want to beat the human. They wanted to crush him. And the first of them was already signed to fight him. Tomorrow, a killer known only as the Ghost of Ruins. A fighter who had never left a single enemy alive. The whispers grow louder. The next day the arena looked the same, but it felt different. Guards walked more carefully. Staff avoided eye contact. Even the vendors selling hot dust meat and glow fruit watched the center pit with nervous eyes. Because, tonight, the Ghost of Ruins was stepping in. He wasn't a warrior. He was a nightmare. No one knew his real species. Some said he was born in the ashes of a dead world. Others believed he was built from scraps of ancient weapons. He had no skin, only black armor that grew like bone. His face was hidden behind a cracked, horned mask. He had fought 43 times in the arena. 43 bodies were buried under it. No survivors. And now, for the first time, he was not the favorite. Whispers filled the dark corners of the arena halls. Do you think the human can stop him? No one stops the ghost. Not even a god, but the human. He moves like something old. Something dangerous. Zarza stood behind a one-way screen. Her arm was wrapped, her pride still raw. She had not left the arena since the fight, not because she was weak, but because something inside her had changed. The human hadn't just beaten her, he'd shown her how much she didn't know, and now someone was going to try to kill him. Zarza gritted her teeth. She didn't care what the others said. The ghost didn't fight with honor. He didn't spare. He didn't respect the code of the arena. He would try to end the human. In the chamber beneath the sand, the human stood barefoot on the cold floor. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow, steady, deep. A soft voice echoed from a hidden speaker. Your next opponent has no fear. The human opened his eyes. Fear is not the enemy. Then what is? Pride, he said, and ignorance. He stepped into the lift. The crowd above chanted, Ghost, ghost, ghost. Then the gate opened. The human stepped into the light. The arena was louder than ever, but he heard none of it. His eyes locked onto the figure across from him. The ghost of ruins stood still as stone. His blade was longer than the human was tall, humming with power. A red mist poured from vents in his armor. For a long moment, they did not move. The crowd leaned forward. The gong rang, and the ghost charged. No screams, no warning, just a blur of death coming straight at the human. But the human didn't move, not yet. He waited. Just before the blade touched air near his neck, he dropped to the ground, rolled, stood behind the ghost, struck once, on the back of the knee. A dent. A pause. The ghost spun with inhuman speed, elbow raised, but the human was already gone, sliding low, fingers brushing sand. Another tap, this time on the ghost's hip joint. A second dent. But still no real damage. In the viewing chambers above, scholars and warlords leaned forward. He's not trying to win with power, whispered the Tharnax general again. He's studying. He's learning how the armor breathes. The ghost roared, not with voice but with rage and movement. His blade spun, the ground cracked, dust exploded into the air. A moment of blindness. The ghost lunged. The human was caught mid-step. The side of his leg sliced. Not deep, but enough to bleed. The first blood drawn. The crowd screamed. The ghost roared louder. But then he stopped, because the human was smiling. Not wide. Not arrogant. Just calm. Quiet. Deadly. He moved forward again, limping slightly but faster than before. He ducked, rolled, spun under the blade, and placed his hand gently, almost lovingly, on the ghost's chest. The crowd thought it was a mistake, until the ghost's blade fell from his hand, and he dropped to one knee. No one understood what happened. Not until the ghost tried to rise and collapsed fully. His joints were frozen. Pressure points. Nerve stops. The human hadn't just found weaknesses in the armor. He had shut the body down, piece by piece, without needing to kill. The ghost gasped behind his mask. For the first time, he was not standing, and the human simply turned away. Above, Zarza slammed her fist into the wall, her heart pounding. What are you? She whispered. The fight was over. The gong rang. But this time the crowd didn't stay silent. They exploded with noise. Not cheers of victory, but something else. Fear. A voice rang from the back rows, from a wise old merchant who had seen too many. Wars, he's not just fighting. He's testing us. In the secret council halls far beneath the arena, old leaders met under dim lights. He must be watched, one said. He must be removed. Another whispered. But one ancient being, older than the rest, leaned forward and spoke slowly. No, he must be understood, before it's too late. Back in the human's chamber, a small figure entered. She was short, cloaked. Her voice was soft. "I watched your fight," she said. The human didn't turn. He wiped the blood from his leg. "You didn't kill him," she said. "Why?" He looked at her finally. "Because breaking a weapon is easy. Breaking belief takes time." The whispers spread through the galaxy. A human in the arena was shattering everything, not just bones, but the illusion that humans were weak, and more fights were coming. Deadlier ones, from enemies who didn't just want to beat him, but erase him. Forever. The truth behind the human, the ghost of ruins, did not rise again. He was carried out by 6 armored guards, his mask cracked, his body limp, and his blade shattered across his chest like a broken crown. It was the first time the ghost had been defeated, and the first time a match ended without a single kill, yet shook the galaxy's bones. But this story, this fear, was no longer trapped inside the arena walls. News of the human's victory spread fast, leaping across sectors like fire through dry plasma fields, from trade ports to war bunkers, from deep space stations to desert colonies. The same question echoed: who is he? In a dark room buried under the Tharnax archives, 2 old scholars dug through forbidden records. Their skin peeled like old bark, their minds sharp as starlight. "Look at this," said one, pointing to a flickering holopad. The image showed a black and white, clip, grainy, ancient, a human soldier moving through smoke. Calm. Exact. Unstoppable. The technique. The stance. "It matches the arena fighter," the other whispered. "But this footage is over 300 years old," the first one said. They sat in silence, and then one whispered what both feared to say out loud. "Maybe it's not a technique. Maybe it's the last of it." Back in the arena's lower levels, the human sat quietly on the edge of his bed. His leg was bandaged. He didn't flinch. His breath was steady. The same cloaked figure who visited before stood in the doorway again, but this time she stepped inside. She pulled back her hood. Zarza. No armor, no weapons. Just questions in her eyes. "What are you?" she asked quietly. The human didn't look at her. He just whispered, "I'm what your kind forgot. You beat me. Then you beat the ghost. You never killed. You don't even celebrate," she said. "Why are you here?" "Not to win," he said. "Then what?" He finally looked at her, and for the first time she saw something deep in his eyes, like a storm hidden under still water. "I came to remind them who we are." "We?" she asked. "You mean humans?" He nodded once. Zarza hesitated, then stepped closer. Her voice dropped lower. "Your kind. They said humans were extinct after the fall of Sol." "Most are," he said. "The last wars ended everything. They broke our skies. They turned cities to shadows. And then they forgot us." "Then how did you survive?" His fingers traced the floor slowly. "There was a program, a silent one, to train one last group, not soldiers, not killers, something else." Zarza frowned. "What?" "Balance," he said. "We were taught not to dominate, but to correct. Not to conquer, but to finish what was broken." "Why come here now?" she asked. "Why this arena?" He stood up and walked to the mirror, staring at his own reflection. "Because the galaxy is repeating its mistakes," he said. "Glory, blood, pride. Everyone fights for power. No one fights for meaning." He turned to her. "You mocked me. But I didn't hate you. I understood you." Zarza's jaw tightened. "You looked at me like I was a child swinging in the dark." "Because you were," he said. That night an old warlord arrived in the city. He wore gold rings around his horns, and his name made generals tremble. His name was Vekthar, the chainbreaker of Rin. He had never stepped into the arena before, but now he demanded to see the human. "I fought humans before," he said to the gate guards. "Centuries ago, during the siege of Kepler Outpost, He pushed past them and entered the chamber. The human looked up. Vekthar's eyes narrowed. "You carry their ghost," he said. "Their movement, their silence." "You fought them?" the human asked. "Yes." They were not many, but they were enough, and they did not fear death. The warlord stepped closer. "Tell me, do you fight like that because you were taught?" "No," said the human. "Then why?" "Because it's the only way to stop what's coming." Vekthar paused. "What is coming?" The human's voice was like stone now. "A storm, not of war but of collapse. When every empire eats itself, who will stop it?" The warlord stared at him for a long time, then gave a slow, deep nod. "Not many will believe you." "I don't need many," said the human, "just the ones who listen." Meanwhile, in the shadows of another planet, a secret message was sent through encrypted networks. Subject confirmed. Human anomaly exists. Pattern matches forbidden techniques. Possibility, last relic of Project Shade. "Send kill order?" "No," came the reply. "Send the blade circle." Back in the arena, Zarza stood at the gates once more, her head bowed. "Teach me," she said to the human. He studied her. "Why?" "Because I want to understand. I want to see what you see." "Then first," he said, quietly, "you must unlearn everything your pride taught you." Far above from orbit, a fleet was already moving, a ship shaped like a dagger in the dark. Inside, 7 beings sat in silence. Each one had killed empires. And now, they were coming for the human. Because he wasn't just winning fights, he was shaking the galaxy's belief system, and belief was dangerous. She bows. The arena was empty now, not because there were no fights scheduled, but because no one wanted to follow him. The sand remained untouched, the gates sealed, and the banners that once danced in wind now hung still, like they too were watching, waiting, holding breath. Zarza stood in the center, armor gone, weapons stripped, body bare under a thin tunic. And she wasn't here to fight. She was here to kneel. In the highest balcony, the arena master Dravak leaned, on his staff, disbelief in his eyes. She ruled this pit for 7 years, and now she bows to the human. Beside him, a war priest from the Razor Rune faith watched in silence. His voice came like thunder hidden in clouds. "No, Master Dravak. She doesn't bow to a man. She bows to the truth he carries." The human walked slowly toward her. His steps didn't command the arena. They didn't roar. They whispered. He stopped just a few feet from Zarza. The wind carried his words like silk through stone. "You sure you want this?" Zarza lowered her head. "I mocked you. I hated you. Then you spared me. Then you showed me what strength really is. Now I want to learn." He studied her. "Then forget your rank. Forget your pride. Forget your name." "What? Do I call myself then?" she asked. "Student," he said. Hours turned into days. Zarza followed him through the arena's underchambers, places even champions had never seen. Old halls filled with dust and echoes. Training circles marked with symbols from ancient human scripts. He didn't teach her how to punch harder. He taught her how to move without anger, how to see weakness without cruelty, how to strike with purpose and stop before the kill. "We never hit to hurt," he told her. "We hit to end the chaos." She bled. She fell. She failed. But she didn't stop. Because every time she looked into his eyes, she didn't see arrogance. She saw weight, as if he was carrying a galaxy's worth of grief behind each breath. On the 5th night, the storm came, not of rain or wind, but of killers. The Blade Circle. 7 assassins, each trained in a forgotten art, each sent by an ancient council that ruled behind the curtains of stars. They came silently, slipping through security, disabling, sensors, drugging guards, no lights, no warnings. They entered through shadows. They were not here to challenge the human. They were here to erase him in the sleeping quarters. Zarza sat cross-legged, her eyes closed. Sweat dripped from her brow. Then she felt it. Pressure in the air. footsteps that didn't make sound, but still shook instinct. She stood and moved toward the hall, and that's when she saw it. The first assassin. Tall, 4 arms, face hidden in glass. Blades made of crystallized energy curved along each wrist. He moved for her. She reacted, but not with rage, not with fury. She remembered what the human taught her. Watch, feel, breathe. She stepped sideways, let the blade pass, struck, the inner elbow, disarmed one, he growled. Came again, but her hand was faster. His blade hit the floor, his knee followed, but she didn't kill. She turned, and that's when she saw 6 more shapes moving toward the human's chamber. No, she whispered. Inside, the human was waiting. Not sitting, not resting, waiting. His eyes closed, breath calm. The door burst open. They came in a blur. 3 blades swung for his chest, neck, back. He didn't dodge. He flowed, like wind. His palm met one attacker's ribs. Crack. He turned, grabbed another by the throat, guided his body into the third. Thud. 3 down. He spun low, sweeping legs, breaking balance, folding bodies. But they were trained to kill legends, and he was bleeding. 1 blade struck his shoulder, another sliced across his ribs, but he didn't slow. Zarza arrived, just as 2 more jumped from the ceiling. Down, he called. She dropped flat. He launched a kick that bent the air and caught both assassins midair, crashed them into the wall. Silence. 7 bodies lay broken, not dead, but defeated. Again. He had spared them. Zarza stood slowly, her chest heaving. Why didn't you let me help? You weren't ready, he said, wiping blood from his lip. You would have fought with emotion. And you didn't? I fight with memory, he said. Whose memory? He looked at her with eyes far older than his face. Everyone we lost. News of the attack spread faster than fire across dry moons. 7 elite assassins, defeated without a kill. The human bleeds, but he doesn't fall. Who trained him? What does he want? In a chamber above the Empire's heart, a council gathered, cold eyes, powerful minds. He is dangerous. He is not part of the game. He's changing the rules. A silent figure at the table finally spoke. Then we must prepare. If he survives much longer, others will follow him. And they were right. Because on that same night, in 10 different systems, warriors who had watched the arena broadcast quietly turned away from their blood games. Some put down weapons, others began training again, but with new questions, and a few began whispering a word that hadn't been spoken in centuries: Earthborn. The teacher becomes the threat. The arena, once a place of mindless blood and roars of the crowd, had changed. No more chance for violence, no more bets on death. Now people came for one reason: to watch the human move. Even in silence, even without striking, his presence created gravity. Young fighters sat in corners trying to mimic his breathing. Old champions stayed in the shadows, eyes wide, wondering how they had missed this truth for so long. But not everyone admired him. In dark corners of the Empire, whispers turned to threats. He had become more than a fighter. He had become a question. And, in a galaxy ruled by pride and control, questions were dangerous. Zarza's transformation was just as shocking. Once a beast of ego and cruelty, now she trained with patience, control, and precision. She had learned not only his movements but his restraint. "Why didn't you kill them that night?" she asked, bandaging his side where the blade circle had struck. The human looked at her. "Because death ends the lesson. Pain carries it further. You fight like your purpose is bigger than survival." He nodded. "Because it is." Weeks passed. More fighters came, some to test him, some to learn. But something strange happened. The more he taught, the more afraid the Empire became, not of his strength, but of what he awakened in others. Discipline, clarity, unity. These were the cracks that scared the rulers most. Deep within the Senate fortress of the galactic core, an emergency session was called. A crimson-robed elite slammed his fist on the marble table. He is building an idea, and ideas last longer than empires. Another voice joined. If he keeps teaching others, this arena will become a school, and schools birth revolutions. A hooded figure leaned forward, her voice cold and final. Then let the arena burn, along with anyone who follows him. Zarza sat across from the human, that evening under the glow of arena lamps. I heard the Senate fears you now, she said. He didn't look up. Good. What will they do? They'll come. Not for me, for the idea I carry. She narrowed her eyes. Then let them. We'll fight. He shook his head. No, we'll stand. What's the difference? One is noise, he said softly. The other is proof. The next morning, the attack came. Not with guns, not with bombs, but with words. Broadcasts filled the systems. Twisted truths, lies dressed as warnings. The human is a threat to peace. He corrupts young warriors with false hope. He's an echo of a dead planet that tried to rule and failed. But those who had seen him, who had fought him, who had learned from him, then they knew better. They began to speak. Fighters from other systems posted footage of their sessions with him. Healing wounds, controlling anger, choosing honor over victory. The IE Empire tried to shut them down. But something had already broken loose and it couldn't be caged again. Days later, the arena's grand hall was packed, not for a fight, but for a moment that would be remembered for centuries. The human walked into the center, no armor, no weapons, just presence. Zarza stood beside him, now a fully trained warrior under his teaching. Behind her stood dozens of others, fighters of every race, every background, every corner of the galaxy. Why are we here? Someone in the crowd shouted. The human answered without raising his voice. To show them that silence does not mean weakness. He looked at the senators watching from the high balconies. You built an empire on fear, on war, on forcing us to bow. His voice grew steadier. But today, no one bows. From the balconies, a signal was given. Dozens of armed guards stormed the arena, rifles raised, orders clear, take the human down. But the fighters didn't scatter. They stood in formation. Ready. And the human? He didn't move. He raised a single hand. Do not fight, he said to his students. But we are not here to win. We are here to show. The guards surrounded him. One stepped forward. On your knees, human. The human looked him in the eyes. You first. And the guard, just a young soldier shaking under pressure, and dropped his rifle and knelt. His commander screamed, but the others began to do the same, one by one. Soldiers of the Empire, dropping their weapons, kneeling, not to worship, but to listen. From the shadows above, the Empress of the Galactic Core watched with a storm in her eyes. He must die, she whispered. But a counselor beside her replied, voice trembling. If we kill him now, we don't stop the movement. We ignite it. And so, they made a different decision. They would give the human one final match, a spectacle, against a being no one had ever faced and lived, a monster bred in the heart of void space. Not to test him, but to bury him. As the decision was made and the crowd still buzzing from what they witnessed, Zarza turned to the human. They're planning something. He nodded. I know. Then what will you do? What I always do, he said. Stand? No. He looked up at the darkening sky. Teach. In the distance, a ship unlike any ever seen entered orbit. Its shape screamed silence. Its engines left no trail. Inside, it was the final challenge, and it was already awake. Not alive, not dead, just hungry. And its next meal was the last human. In the galaxy watches the stars above the arena dimmed as the ship descended, a vessel blacker than space, its hull absorbing all light. No one knew its name. No one needed to. They had only heard whispers of what it carried. Not a soldier. Not a beast. Not a machine. Something worse. Inside the arena, the human stood still as the gates trembled from the force of the ship's arrival. Zarza watched him, with silent fear in her eyes. "What did they send?" she asked. The human didn't blink. The end of belief. In hidden chambers across the galaxy, leaders watched the broadcast live. Warlords, merchants, assassins, kings, even pirates paused their raids to witness this moment. They all wanted the same thing, to see him fall, not because they hated him, but because he made them question everything. If one human without a weapon could break empires without killing, then what did they stand on? What did they rule? The arena shook as the gate opened. A soundless wind rushed in, and with it, the enemy stepped onto the sand. It had no face. Its body shifted like liquid steel, arms too long, legs that bent the wrong way. No eyes, but it saw. No mouth, but it hungered. And worst of all, it had never lost. It had no name, only a code burned into history. Omega Project Zero, created during the fall of Sol. A failed experiment, buried, forgotten, until now. The crowd didn't cheer. They barely breathed. Even Drovok, the arena master, whispered in dread. They sent him death, wrapped in silence. Zarza gripped the wall. "You don't have to fight this thing. You've already won. You've changed everything." But the human stepped forward. "If I don't face what they fear most, then no one will follow what they need most." The gong rang, but no one heard it. Omega moved like liquid nightmare, shooting forward in a blur. The human shifted left, barely. Omega's claws scraped air, and then sliced through stone. No roar, no sound, just destruction. The human countered, not with punches, but with motion, redirecting force, touching joints, flowing like water, but Omega adapted. Every strike the human used, Omega learned, and after the third exchange, Omega anticipated. Its claws caught the human's side. Blood sprayed. The crowd gasped. Zarza screamed. The human fell and rolled and stood again, eyes steady. "It learns too fast," he whispered. In the control room, the Galactic Council watched in awe. "He's going to fall," one whispered. "Finally," said another. But the oldest counselor frowned. "Not yet. Look closer. He's not fighting to win. He's studying it." And he was. The human had stopped striking. He moved slower now. He let Omega hit, not killing blows, but just enough. He let it feel victory, until it got cocky. And that's when the human struck. Just once. A whisper of a move. His palm touched Omega's chest. A tiny sound echoed, like glass breaking deep underground. Omega froze. It shook. Its limbs twitched. The human stepped back. "It's not alive," he said softly, "but it's scared now." Zarza stared. "What did you do?" "I found its rhythm, its pattern. Every beast has one, and I broke it." Omega screamed, not out loud, but in every mind watching. The sound of pain, confusion, rage. Its form twisted, glitched, shimmered, and then it ran. Omega fled the arena, the Empire's weapon of silence, was afraid. The crowd was still, and then, or so for the first time in centuries, they stood, not for violence, not for victory, but for clarity. In that moment, the galaxy watched something more powerful than any war. A man with no army had changed an empire without killing a single soul. In the council chamber, chaos erupted. He must be stopped before others follow. But the oldest counselor stood. "No, it's too late." He pointed to the broadcast. Thousands of young warriors dropping weapons, kneeling. Not in surrender, but in choice. He didn't teach them to fight, the counselor said. He taught them to decide. Weeks passed. The arena closed, not in shame, but in peace. Its halls became training grounds, its walls carved with new symbols, not of champions, but of students. The human stayed for a while, taught, quietly, then one day, he was gone. No goodbye, no farewell, just a folded cloth left behind, the same one he wore the day he first entered the arena. Zarza found it, held it, wept. Legends say he still walks, planet to planet, never staying long, always watching, always teaching. Not with fear, not with force, but with calm, with patience, with strength that never needs to shout. And across the stars they whisper his name, not as a warrior, not as a hero, but as something far more dangerous to a broken galaxy. Hope. The end.